Welcome back. Sorry for that little break there. We had to have a little judge call. And based off of the judge's ruling, a win has been awarded to Lasser, which means he'll be going on with the win there. And we'll be going into our final round here, round 14. So here in Malmo Regional. My name is Mike, and I'm here with Shay, the broadcast bulk. We are here ready to go into round 14 and see who's going to be making it into that top 8. How's your day been so far?
My day's been really good. I got to manage to sit back, cast a couple rounds. I've been sitting there watching, analysing, seeing how these top tables have been going. But this is the final round now. For everyone competing for those top 8 slots. Another win or go home scenario, but this time with so much prizing on the line if you can navigate into that top 8.
Yeah, I mean, you let MuVMax go this event. You went over to the Lugia Dark side. And I think MuVMax looks like it's the hot deck right now, 31%.
Yeah.
The decks in day 2 were MuVMax. Lost Engine making up a lot of it too. I think there was about 5 to 10% Lugia as well. And
yeah, 5 it was,
a few interesting decks down the bottom, including a Kyurem VMAX.
Yeah, Kyurem VMAX. I'm intrigued to look at that deck list. Is it the sort of new age Adventures Discovery, like 2030 energy version? Or is it like a more of a, Palkia-esque kind of version? So here, have a look. So yeah, Lugia, my pick was at 11. Your pick, Mike, at 31. So congratulations to you. 2 Gudra, I should say there, 4, and unfortunately for Rabbi, no control.
Yeah, Gardevoir are played by a lot of the top players as well, so I think seeing your likes of Tord, Reklev and Kai coming through quite strong with that Gardevoir, and the Schultz brothers as well we saw on stream.
And Carl Blake as well.
Yeah,
with the Mewtwo version.
Yeah, so a lot of top players here taking that Gardevoir in, but it seems like Judge Path is just too strong. MuVMax disrupting the meta and coming through on top while it's least expected.
Yeah, and it's just that sort of age-old principle, right? Like, sure, I might not be the best position deck, but I tell you what I can do. I can give you no rule box abilities and a 4-card hand start your turn. Let's go. And we're under those circumstances. You can beat any deck in format, right? If your opponent just doesn't set up, and you can go Technoblast, 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 you're in for a good time. So yeah, could this be MuVMax's regional? Who knows? Going by the numbers, it might be.
I think MuVMax can be safely granted the best deck in format when there's no techs about. I think that's,
100%.
I think that's a fair thing to say, because it is the deck which is most teched for.
Yep.
Because it is so scary. Dark Attackers, Drapion, Galarian Moltres. We see the Dark Attackers in the Lugia list with the Yveltal. Even Umbreon V coming now into the Arceus Duraludon build. So Dark Attackers everywhere to try and account for it, but not enough. Disruption too strong here at Malmo, and we are excited to see what will be happening in round 14. As we have had a grueling Swiss bracket. 14 rounds, not many players making it through unscathed, many players taking losses or draws just because of how versatile the meta is. Yeah. And we'll be seeing who can make it into that top 8.
No, 100%. It's funny how you mentioned all these dark attackers that now have sort of freedom to be in the format, right? Like Umbreon VMAX, in theory, sure, it's got a great ability, but it's got no reason to be getting dotted about in the format. We even saw one set you've got to mention, we didn't see the greatest success, but Mightyena was the first sort of auto counter we sort of saw for Mew VMAX.
Calm down. I don't get Cherrim Snorlax.
Cherrim Snorlax, come on. And also, you said that I've abandoned Mew, and I wouldn't say so, because look at the colour of the suit today. I had to rep Mew at some point, you know what I mean?
Next you'll be saying you're repping Sableye because there's one in front of us. And
yeah, I'm a Sablezard player as well.
That makes top 8, yeah, Sablezard.
Oh, Sablezard the whole time.
But Shay, we've had an amazing time here. I hope you guys at home have been in chat. We've been loving you guys in getting involved. We've had some polls going on throughout, so appreciate you guys doing so. I'm interested to hear you guys in chat telling us what your pick would have been for this event, because we've had our caster picks that have gone down very well. As mentioned, I was a MuVMax, but you guys at home, if you were here, what would you have gone for? And also over in Hartford, they've been having a whole different metagame, I'm sure. So all around the world right now, Pokemon is being played to a high level. But here in Malmo, we'll be finding out in round 14. I'm interested to know what kind of pair we'll get and what kind of matchup we're getting. Yeah. If we don't get a MuVMax, then there's concerns that the Mews have been falling away in day 2.
Well, that can sometimes be the tale of the tape. You know, you might come into a day 2 and have a deck, be overrepresented. But then when that deck runs into only, exclusively good players for the most part who know their ways around their deck and how to navigate certain matchups. Because on face value, while MuVMax is a strong deck, it's one-dimensional in the sense that it has to attack with a 3-prize Pokemon every turn, and that can be easy to manipulate, techs like Drapion can exist at the right time. With Sableye, like we saw, can just sprinkle damage onto Genesect, and for the most part, that damage is going to stay there. So, like you said, it'll be interesting to see how many Mews do convert into that top 8, but still a fantastic showing. 30%, that's extremely high.
That's like Lugia last meta,
It is.
isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
Mew has... When it came in, it was a whole different deck. When Fusion Strike first came out, it was by far the best deck. And in every single format since, it's been a contender. And there will always be one event throughout that season where we'll see Mew VMAX succeed. And whether it will be in the final, whether it will be a win, it always sneaks through at some point, and it's when it's least expected. It's always when it's least teched for, when people put cards in like Kyogre, for example, where they think, oh, that's enough to deal with it. I'll take out my Drapion and my Galarian Moltres or whatever. And then they find out actually the Judge path disrupts you so much the Kyogre never activates, and so all of these decks that are sort of pseudo prepared for Mew just get punished by that disruption of the Judge. So it just shows how good the deck is that it's not disappeared throughout all of the meta shifts. Yeah,
you could almost draw the popularity or success over Mew for like that reverse bell curve, right? Everyone expected to do well, so they tech for it, and then the popularity drops down, and then everyone thinks, oh, Mew hasn't done much at the last regional. Let me take my second Drapion out, let me take this out, let me take that out. And then Mew power spikes the region. Everyone's like, oh my goodness, I need my Drapions back, and it just goes a bit like this. And we could be seeing a popularity at the top here. I mean, like you said, 30% is like Lugia, Silver, Tempest levels of meta share, like incredible.
I mean, it's also quite an easy to access deck, you know, for a lot of newer players. We've had quite a few newer players here at the event to get that League Battle deck, one of the best Pokemon products right now. So, I mean, that's how I got hold of my Mew VMAX, so that I could play it. And consequently, there's going to be a lot of people who are giving it a go, at least. So, Mew VMAX here to stay, and we'll be struggling next format. Spiritomb coming about might make it a bit more challenging, but I'm sure people will find ways around that too. Just that draw engine too good. But for you guys in the chat, you've been giving away some of your favorite decks. We can't actually see the chat right now, so I'm going to pick random person from the chat who said Lugia V-Star.
Ooh.
Tell me about your Lugia V-Star though.
Okay, so my Lugia, I'm sure some people looked at my list yesterday and thought, hold on a sec. This is a bit of a crazy list. Let me talk you through the reasoning. So the first card people probably would have noticed was the one-off Galarian Articuno V. It's solely there for its ability Reconstitution, lets you discard 2 cards from your hand and then draw 1. Idea being, we only have Read the Wind and 4 Ultra Balls to discard cards from your hand now, outside of Professor Research, obviously. And I found getting Archeops in the discard pile would be kind of hard. So I said, let me just grab that Articuno and I can discard the Archeops and get to work.
Lovely.
And I also have 3 copies of that Jack supporter there. Jack.
That's you being rogue right there.
Yeah, that is. Jack lets you grab 2 evolution Pokemon. So I did a bit. I always found I always had at least 1 Archeops in my hand, or the Lugia V-Star, but I didn't have the full piece of the puzzle. However, if you have Jack, that grabs you the other 2 that you need, and then you just Articuno away the ones that you don't need, and all of a sudden, we are off to the races. Now, the concessions for me to fit this stuff in, I'm sure you probably already spotted it. No stadiums, don't play them, don't need them. All I'm trying to say is if you can just get that Punkaboo, get rid of that path, Summoning Star, and then you don't need your Wallbox abilities anymore. That's my reasoning. So yeah, this is...
What happens if your Pumpkaboo's prized?
Then you go to game 2. That's what you do. You go to game 2 and hope it doesn't happen 2 games in a row. I'm sure the statistics people can tell me how often that happens. Hopefully, it's not that often.
What if you have to discard it in your first hand?
You don't. You can't. You haven't got a choice.
What happens if you start Pumpkaboo?
You don't. Don't worry about it.
You go game 2, right?
You go to game 2, yeah. And I'm sure some people are saying, oh, but Articuno, that sounds good on paper, but then you've got a 2 prize Pokemon in play, like Sableye can hunt, for example. Well, let me turn your eye to the card directly below Articuno, that Thornton. You can Thornton that away, that can come back to be a Yveltal or a Tita or a Stonejourner, as it were. And of course, I have to rep my boy Single Strike Urshifu, dealing with those pesky Goodras and Duraludons.
Very clever, Shay, very clever. Also, you didn't mention the Urshi there, your favorite Pokemon.
It is.
So Urshi was probably a big factor in you going, I love this deck, because you get to play your favorite Pokemon. Another reason why a lot of people choose Dex as their favorite Pokemon.
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, Lugia is a lot of people's favorite legendary, but has become increasingly hated by many people who got beaten by Lugia over again in the last format. But I do want to say congratulations on making a unique list. Whether it's a good list or not.
Oh, goodness.
I'm sure people will net deck that one, try out a few games, and start Pumpkaboo and go, right, pathing out, isn't it?
Don't worry about it. No. You won't. You'll be fine. Like, you're opponent, you always get your turn to Archeops, and you'll be fine. I don't know if we have time, but maybe we can look at Mike's list soon, so we can.
Oh, we had a look at that long enough earlier.
Oh, did you? Let me have a look at that, because I've played a bit of Mew myself, so.
Don't you worry about my Mew list. All you need to know is that Mew is a very good list.
Okay, fair enough.
To be fair, my list is pretty solid, but I think there'll be better lists. I think Trekking Shoes has been the highlight for me at this event. I definitely going to try and find a way to squeeze that in, makes that Mew motor even further through the deck, and just increases the likelihood of a Judge Path in each turn. So Judge Path works mighty well.
No, it does.
And we'll be seeing plenty of Mew VMAX. I'm interested to see how the top 8 pans out, whether we see lots of Mew VMAX in it, or whether it doesn't quite make it to that final stage of the day. So round 14 coming up shortly. I do see the players making their way to the table now, so I'm going to be able to show you their game shortly. And for you, Shay, what do you expect to see be effective here in those final rounds? You know, you're thinking like the fatigue's kicking in now.
Yeah,
you're starting to think, right, I've got to play optimally. I've got to be consistent. You can't have a bad game now. So we're thinking, what's going to be coming up here?
Yeah, when you're in these late game scenarios, it's like, end of the day, you've piloted your deck really well. You've sort of know your ins and outs, and you have to try, like you said, push that fatigue for the side and just think, right, I've got one more round to go, and then I've got all the prizes.
Well, that's going to be here in the Masters division, but we only have 2 other divisions here in TCG as well, Senior and Junior. We got a chance to chat to Senior winner earlier on, but we're going to be chatting with the Junior winner now. Amy, let us know how they did.
Everybody, we're back. My name's Amy, and we're with the winners of the Junior bracket. Young, how are you feeling, my dude?
I'm feeling really good right now.
Yeah, amazing. For all the viewers at home who, like a lot of us, get to see the Masters play, what deck were you playing today?
I was playing Mew VMAX.
Oh, fantastic. Were you playing DTE or Fusion Strike?
DT.
Yeah. Why do you prefer that one over Fusion Strike?
I think it just... The matchup spread, it might be a little worse, but it's much more consistent.
Yeah, no way. Yeah, I suppose that's very true. So have you always been a Mew fan, or have you tried out some different decks preparing for the event?
I never was like a super fan of Mew. I played it like to 3 events. I got 2nd, 8th, and now 1st.
Literal champion in the making. Oh my goodness, that's incredible. So Mew's just been your superstar?
Yeah, for now, yeah.
For now. Ooh, have you got anything in the works for the future then?
I don't know the next format yet, so we'll see.
We'll see. Is there any type of Pokemon that you'd prefer to play than Psychic?
I like Water, I think, because I played Palkia a lot.
Oh, amazing. Have you seen Chen Pao?
I didn't see it.
Not yet, that's okay. Water's got some interesting things coming up. So did you have to travel far to get to the event today?
Yeah, it was like an hour flight.
Oh, so you flew over, that's amazing. Well, I hope you're not too exhausted. It's a really long day. How many rounds did you have to do?
I played 5 rounds of Swiss and then 3 rounds in top 8, so 8.
That's a really, really long day. Are you tired after all of that?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah. When are you heading home?
I think today later.
Oh, later today? That's fantastic. Did your family and friends come with you today?
My dad came with me.
Oh, shout outs to Dad for coming with us. Thank you so much. That's amazing. Bringing a literal champion to our midst. That's fantastic. Yeah, so there we go. We're with Hyun. So what exactly are your steps next to getting to Worlds? Are you trying to go to Worlds?
Yeah, I have like guaranteed to going to Yokohama for Worlds. So yeah, I'll be there for sure.
You're already there, the points are secured. Are you going for stipends?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, that's incredible. I apologize, I don't know much about the juniors bracket as we normally watch a lot of Masters, but these guys are absolute pros. You should see some of them at work. Is there anyone that you were worried about seeing or any deck you were worried about seeing today?
I think some Lost Zone decks, like Lost Zone boxes. Tina is fine. I was afraid I'm gonna see Gregory Vexenat, Franek Rice, and Jan Domek.
Wow, so there's quite a lot of competition in the juniors bracket too.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Have you got a lot of friends at your locals that help you test for the events like this?
Yeah, a lot.
Oh, brilliant. I'm really glad to hear that. Hopefully they've all cheered you on at home, and maybe they'll be able to join us next time as well. Do you think they'd enjoy it?
Yeah, I think they would.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Jan, for coming and speaking to us today. You are so brave and you've done amazing today. Thank you so much. We're going to head back and see some more footage from the day.
Thanks a lot, Amy, and congratulations, Jan. What an amazing achievement, and I love seeing these younger players coming through, learning their trade, so when they eventually grow up into those Masters, we'll be seeing them in probably quite a few years to come, like 10 years plus, and there's so many of the players we've met here through the tournament who started off in juniors and seniors, now doing so well in the Masters. When did you start getting involved?
I started, 2012, so I was well into my Masters, unfortunately. I was an old man in Voken one turn, but I know some players like Jack Old, for example, started off as a senior. Demetrius Eaton, my friend, he started off as a senior. Jesper, obviously winning with that Jan Mega break deck. I remember that very well. So yeah, it's always interesting to see how when the seniors come, like you were chatting to Kaya yesterday, for example, she'll be aging up bit next season, she said, right? Former world champion herself. So that'd be interesting to see, if they hit the ground rolling in Masters. And you have to imagine, I feel as if over my time playing, I think the competitive skill or averagely of the juniors and seniors has gotten incredible. Like, you watch some of the streams from the ICs of the juniors and seniors playing the Masters, and I'm thinking, I didn't even see that for them. Like a quarter of my age, and they thought that. Like, fair play to them.
There's also access to all the coaches now, all the top players coaching. I know a lot of the top juniors and seniors get Masters coaching them, but we will be looking at round 14 here finally, and you might recognize some of these faces right here. Piotr and Tord Reklev starting off their game there with the coin flip. They are on their winning in table 5, and this is going to be a big game for them.
Yeah. Is there a scarier person to see opposite the table for you in a winning in for top 8 than Tord Reklev? I'm not 100% sure there is. Tord playing the Gardevoir deck, and Piotr, who we had on stream yesterday, playing that Cryoga Lost Zone box deck with one copy of Zamazenta and one Cryoga 2.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many varieties of Lost Zone box. Every time we see it come on stream, I think, oh, that's a whole different way to play it. And this is one of the first Zamazentas we've seen today. Yeah. We saw it yesterday as well. So Zamazenta, not a common pick, but such a good revenge attacker into Vs, and also great into some of the fairy-type Pokemon in the meta. I believe for Zacian, it can knock out a Zacian, but it would do the damage anyway. So we'll be looking to see whether that affects the game. But you see there, Roxanne right at the top of the prizes there for Tord, and on the other side, Greninja, a great early attacker for Piotr. So this could be a bad set of prizes here for Piotr.
All right, let's see who's going first. Kicking it off here in the winning in action here, Malmo region. And it looks like Tord is starting us off. Now, it's funny, we've been saying this all weekend. Traditionally, by the data, Gardevoir is less favored into Lost Box decks, especially, Sables are. But all of them can be considered. None of them are positive for Gardevoir. But what we've been seeing on stream is that Gardevoir players don't seem to care about the numbers. They just seem to get the wins anyway. Start off a turn with an Ultra Ball, going to do a little prize check, and I imagine we'll start getting the Roltzes into play.
Yeah, finds out that Mew is prize as well. The one of Mew can be great early on to try and find a much needed search for an item. But with the Zacian in the active spot, that probably wouldn't have been possible. So that's not to worry about there. But the Manaphy start not optimal on the other side. And as we mentioned, that Greninja being prize is huge, because an early swing turn in these Greninja builds can be that Mirage Gate onto the Greninja, getting 2 routes out of play. So we'll see what happens here.
Not the greatest start. I had a feeling if you're Ultra Boiling for 1 Roltz, chances are your hand isn't the greatest, and only 1 Roltz down for Tord going first. Does have 2 energies on the Zacian with that War of the Sword ability, so that we'll be able to attack with Storm Slash next turn, but that is not the hottest of starts you want in a winning in scenario for top 8.
No, but if the Zacian can attack next turn, it is a bulky Pokemon, can then penny that damage away, so it can be quite a nice attacker early on with the recovery, especially if there's no damage put on it through a Gardevoir EX. But as you mentioned, you want to try and go as wide as possible with that bench. We'll be aware of the threat of Greninja, but needs to get that Lost Zone really counting high, and with a Manaphy start, that's not going to look likely.
Yeah, not the greatest. We do see a VIP battle pass, I believe, in Piotr's hand. Start of a turn with a VIP Chorus Experiment, I should say, is never a bad thing. It's probably just going to consult the prizes. Has prized 1 Cramorant and the Greninja. Greninja could be quite impactful, actually, because that's how these Lost Box decks love to sort of churn through their deck and get energy in the discard pile.
When we see a basic Pokemon in the prize cards, it's not as scary where it's positioned as some of the other cards, like, for example, a Supporter or an Evolution Pokemon, or for a Mewtwo v Union, the pieces from that, you need the Pioneer to find them. So in this case, we'll be able to get that with the one-of Heavy Ball in the deck. So there is a way to get it out, and we'll likely work that out right now as going through the basic Pokemon. And plenty of energy to activate that concealed cards on a Greninja as well with 12 energy. So definitely Greninja being quite a good early card to play.
Yeah, 100%. And you can even attack with it in this style, right? If Manaphy doesn't come out, which currently is prized for Tord as well, could have been an offensive threat. And worth noting, for whatever reason, if that Manaphy doesn't come down, Kyogre will have free reign to just run amok. We have to imagine, traditionally, players do take their prize cards from the bottom to the top. So I'm sure Manaphy and Mew will be liberated at some point.
Exactly. That Roxanne being the scarier prospect there. If the swing turn is needed later on for Gardevoir, won't be possible. And you can just see here Piotr's technique for checking prizes, not a common one, but putting all of the basic at the front and I think all of the energy at the back. So you can really check those nice and thoroughly. And then a nice thorough shuffle afterwards. A shout out to Azul, the old 7-mash man. If you do a good 7 mashes and a few riffles, you should be able to completely randomize that, especially after organizing and clumping those basics and energies back and front.
Yeah, I remember a funny story about that. I remember watching one of Freya's old videos on her YouTube channel years ago. This was first when I started playing. She did a video on how to shuffle the Pokemon TCG, and the conclusion of that video was 7 mash shuffle. So ever since then, that's what I've been. That's been my baseline ever since then. So shout out to Freya. Piotr does manage to get an escape rope, gets a Comfort in the active, so flower selecting is being used. 3 cards in the Lost Zone. Opts to get rid of a Beach Court, which is a really strong stadium actually. But obviously, Chorus Experiment is a good card as well.
Yeah, and wants to get that cram down. There is, as you mentioned, one in the prizes. There is one in the deck. There's a Nest Ball in hand. So one more flower selecting and a knockout on that route will be possible. But there is an escape rope in hand. So hopefully not having to use the escape rope here to retreat out into the Cramorant. Otherwise we'll be attacking to the Zacian. And that will be, they can deal with that later on with the Zamazenta if they need to. So they don't need to start putting damage on that to start setting up for a 2-hit knockout. They can comfortably take that with a Zamazenta later on.
I think in ideal world, if you're in an ideal world, I should say, Piotr would love to KO this lone Volt. I mean, sure, the Zacian can attack, but without Gardevoir's in play, Gardevoir EX as a deck will just start to crumple. You can deal with a Zacian, like you said. With a Zamazenta, he's got big 2 cards. Was it a switch? Oh, I don't think it was a switching card. Like, was it a Roxanne, potentially?
So might need to use the escape rope to switch here, because already used an energy attached retreat. So just playing to those outs, might not be able to do it here, so might even look to pass. Yeah,
I was just debating. Do you ever look to pass in this scenario? I mean, getting 110 damage is never a bad option, but the Rolts does survive, but unless there's another escape route, well, no, you have to get out the active again. So still, turn 110 damage, not a bad thing.
Yeah, and there's that Zamazenta going down. So revealing that now. As mentioned before, these top players, as they get late on into the Swiss, will be probably quite aware of what their opponents are playing. They've all got friends and spies amongst the Swiss who'll be able to let them know what's going on. So Tord will probably just ask one of his friends who's played against Piotr, what kind of Lost Box am I up against here? So we'll be probably told, Zamazenta, Kyogre, the rest is pretty normal. Yeah,
I mean, I would imagine another resource that could be available toward is going back on the stream. Because you know, if I was streamed yesterday, could just go back and be like, oh, let's have
a that's true. Have a little watch of that.
have a little watch of that as well. But yeah, so 110 damage on that Zacian is actually really impactful because it forces Tord to try and find a Penny at some point. And with a board state that what Tords have, Penny is not the support you want to be playing to develop your board. Does manage to get access to Greninja. Conceal cards, draws 2, get energies into the discard pile as well. But there's a Curlier in the hand, so it will be able to draw 2 cards there as well.
Yeah, you want to go as wide as possible with those routes early on, just so you can sacrifice one if needed. But in this case, keeping that one route alive was key to be able to evolve it into a curlier and start getting those guardies going.
The old empty hand Professor Sycamore that started all the way back in XY, and glad to see that is still the little ritual for your opponent. Gets an empty hand Sycamore or research, give him a little high five.
Is that a thing?
Oh, have you never heard that?
I've never seen that before. That's class.
Yeah, it's like if you get empty hand research Sycamore, Professor Juniper, give him a little well done there. I haven't seen it in a while, but yeah, it definitely takes me back all the way back to XY.
There's so many new players who, if they get offered a high five when they do that, they might be thinking, "What are you doing?
What, you just rubbing it in, are you?"
We've seen everyone on stage having a lot of fun, and
yeah,
I think
nice.
At the end of the season, you do start to see the pressure taking off a lot of players. They've got their Worlds invites. A lot of these top players might be very confident in their ending position. Obviously, there are some who are fighting for the stipend, so they'll be really trying to make sure they do well here. But for a lot of players, they're here to enjoy themselves, play Pokemon for the fun of it, and I think these two guys will be thinking that right now on stage.
Yeah, and it's funny. I think I was chatting to Tord when we were doing the filming before the regionals. You're saying, like, if I top 8, I get like 20 CP or something because his finishes are just insane. Here we do see the Forest Seal Stone. This is actually one of the only changes Tord made from his EUIC finalist deck. You know, before we see the Sky Seal Stone being optimal, that was what played for EUIC, and that's what we saw Carl Blake still playing as well. But now it looks like a lot of players like the Schultz brothers switched over to the Forest Seal, and so did your friend Kai, I believe.
Yeah, exactly, and it's made it unfavourable into Mew for a lot of the time.
Yeah.
As that Sky Seal turn was so key into the Mew VMAX matchup, they could take a 2-prizer and then the 4-prize turn. Yeah. And perhaps that's part of the reason why Mew VMAX has done so well here, is a lot of the decks disrespected it and are now struggling against it.
I guess it's sort of like pick your poison, because at the end of the day, you are a stage 2 deck in Gardevoir, right? Sure, you're an incredible deck when you get to that stage 2, but you are still a stage 2 deck. So do you take the Sky Seal, which polarizes your Mew matchup, makes it much better, but then doesn't have a lot of uses against Lost Box, for example? Or do you take the Forest Seal, which is always usable in every game, but then you know, your V-Star matchups or V-Max matchups tend to suffer a little bit. Here we see, I think, the all-star of the Guardi deck this weekend, that Cresselia with that Moongo reverse, letting you move 20 damage from each of your Pokemon to any one of your opponent's Pokemon.
It's so key to start setting up the maths in your favor, because you can get your Gardevoir EX fully powered up with no damage on, which can be good against some of the bigger attackers like your Charizards and your Dragonites in Lost Box, but it's also able to heal some of that damage off that Zacian, so it takes it out of range of a Cramorant hit next turn. So it's all these bits of maths that start to go in favor of it, and it also allows you to target any of the low hit point Pokemon on the opponent's side with the Cresselia, typically a Comfey.
Yeah, you could almost argue a silver lining for that Zacian taking damage is that you get an extra 20 damage to play with without having to commit an energy to that Zacian, right? Because as you saw, Tord didn't have to Psychic Embrace energy to the Zacian to get this 20 damage in play. So here we do see the Moonglow reverse. That's going to be, what, 100 damage being able to move and going onto a Comfey. Love to see
there we see, and the healing on the Zacian, super key there. So now the Forest Seal Stone has been used, takes away an option. We'll be wondering what the game plan here is for Piotr. It's going to be trying to get that Mirage Gate activated at the 7 count in the Lost Zone. Really wanting to try and put a Zamazenta in play for a knockout at some point. It's also a little bit more tanky in a lot of matchups, so you can't get away with using a Cresselia on it, for example.
Yeah.
It does have that reduction of 30 damage with the Metal Shield, sort of giving it a pseudo 160 hit point Pokemon, which is big for a basic.
Yeah, and it can hit as hard as 220 damage if a Pokemon got knocked out last turn, I should say. Perfect for carrying new minions and or Zacians, or potentially a Gardevoir EX, provided there has been some Sableye damage, or even Cramorant damage, I guess, that have been prepared in the past. And it looks like Pyrrha does manage to find that one-off heavy ball, like you mentioned, being able to liberate either the Greninja or the Cramorant. You have to imagine probably Greninja.
Well, now, when we look at that board state for Tord, he hasn't put a Manaphy down. So that means that a double knockout on route is possible here with the Greninja, with that Mirage Gate. So great timing for the heavy ball. You can see right now he's checking his prizes using that heavy ball just to confirm it. There wasn't anything particularly important with those other prizes, so he just saw them as consistency cards. Now he can guarantee what those other 4 cards outside his basics were.
Yeah, you're right. A well-timed Moonlight Shuriken here could really put the pressure onto Tord. Currently 4 cards in the loss zone there for Piotr. Not the greatest.
I think it's 6 with the Colrus at the beginning.
Oh, sorry, that hasn't been updated. Okay, fair enough. Oh, yeah, because he did Cramorant. So, yeah, it's going to be at 6. So, just needs 1 more, actually. So, I think, was there a switch card available at some point?
Yeah, he's got 1 Convey on the bench. Now 2. Needs to switch into it because the Cram stayed in the active after that Cresselia attack. Another advantage of the Cresselia is you can leave something awkward in the active.
Yeah.
Typically, Lost Box likes its active attacker to be knocked out so it can send up another Convey and begin flower selecting again. So lots of benefits to that Cresselia here, but Piotr might be able to get a pop-off turn and get that Greninja in play. Right,
so we do see the Mirage Gate in hand as well, but we need to actually find the energy to attach from the hand as well. Does have the switch card already being used, sorry, so this Spartan could be a bit awkward. What do we see? Was that Roxanne or a Clara?
I think that's a Roxanne and an energy, so this is a tough decision because you got to think about now. Now is important. That energy is super important, but Roxanne important later on. Tord will be taking note of that, knows that disruption late game won't be a problem now. But a big turn now. If the Mirage Gate comes off, Greninja attacking 2 routes will start to swing this game in favor of Piotr, taking away that draw engine.
Yeah, and it's like that's what he's definitely preparing for, but I feel as if needs a switching card. I wonder if we're going to see that Pokestop being used to try and find a switching card. So as it stands here, Piotr gets 2 energy off the Mirage Gate, has 1 energy to attach from hand, that can provide your Greninja attacking, but still needs to get this Comfey out of the active Pokestop. There's a Stadium card, letting you discard top 3 cards of your deck. Any items you get to keep, anything else, goes into the discard pile. So if it finds, Escape Rope, Switch Card, anything like this, we could be off to the races. Is that what we're going to see?
I mean, it's particularly well thinned, so I think you're right. Deck thinned of energy as well. That's going to be key.
Yep.
Might even look to Poker Gear first to thin out a supporter, but no, he's just going to use the Pokestop straight up.
Here we go.
Echoing Horn,
got this Escape Rope and a Switch Car. Wow, the triple item Pokestop. We don't see that every day.
You see the little smile from Tord. Of course you did. Of course you did.
Wow. Pushes the Cresselia back to the pen. Go put up the Volt Stone, thinking it doesn't matter where these Volts are, they're going to get KO'd anyway. 1 and 2. And Piotr going from 6 prize cards down to 4, putting Tord really on the back foot here, only leaving a Gardevoir EX in play.
And that's where that prized Manaphy was so key.
Yeah.
If that was able to get out last turn, Tord might have been able to protect the double knockout there from the Greninja. And so right now, Tord will be checking that discard pile, probably looking at switch outs, because we've seen 3 escape ropes being used, a switch card too, energy as well, lots of resources that can be key throughout the game as the Gardevoir EX goes into the active and is a big attacker for Piotr to take out.
Oh, look at that, 2 Curliers in hand as well. Like, we're here, Tord, we're here to help, but unfortunately, Volt's got sent to the discard pile. Wow, so what a powerful swing turn it is, and what's scary is that, if that Manaphy stays away, Piotr can start lining towards that Cryoga, which can just has free reign to just go crazy. But Tord does manage to find another Volt, can put that down, but you do have to deal with this Greninja, because you can't let Moonlight Shuriken again, that would be disastrous.
We saw some variations of the Gardevoir deck have a heavy ball, and I believe it was one of the Schultz brothers. I don't know which one it was, but one of them did have the heavy ball. And it's situations like this where you think, well, maybe that would have been a nice card to find. But again.
Ooh, Pokestop as well. And that's 3 non-items. Oh, my goodness.
Station, Penny, and Collapse Stadium.
And Penny is super
Was that Penny
important.
or is that Worker? I can't tell.
I think it's... Oh, I think it was Penny. Oh, no, Miriam.
Miriam. Neither of them. So Miriam going to be going there. Pokemon Recovery going to be tough. Palpad is still in the deck, I believe.
Yeah, Palpad should still be in deck. I don't think we've seen that, but... And it's funny because it happens a lot when you play Pokestop. I played Pokestop before myself as a one-off in UV Max, and I use it, and it goes good. My opponent thinks, oh, I can use this as well. And unless your deck is built to facilitate a Pokestop engine, it can come back to bite you, discarding Pokemon energy and or supporters. Can get a little bit dicey.
I mean, we saw it in the last game where using the Pokestop discarded a Drapion in the UV Max match.
Oh, it did, yeah.
So sometimes it can be a big risk for the players who put Pokestop in their decks to motor through. There's always a chance that you get a little bit unlucky.
Yeah, do we see the Moonglow reverse? Now, this is rather interesting. This means the Greninja can Moonlight Shuriken again. Obviously, there is no 2 Volts in play now, just the 1, so we won't be seeing any double KOs, but then putting damage into the Zacian could prove pretty nice as well. And let's see what Piotr does. Could even Echoing Horn, thinking about it, put a Waltz back and then KO it again. Oh my goodness, because he took the Waltz off the Pokestop, right?
Yeah, we saw that heavy ball being played and the judge there just helping out, I think, to replace those prize cards. And there is an Echoing Horn in hand, as you mentioned. There is a space on the bench. So if we see a Mirage Gate onto that Greninja, a double knockout could happen again. I wouldn't be surprised if at that point Tord realizes it's not likely to be winnable.
Yeah, that would be a real tough scenario here. I just want to see the Poke Gear. Colrus does help us get towards that Mirage Gate play.
Mirage Gate is already active, so should be fine. It's just trying to find it now, isn't it? It's just trying to find those pieces, and Colrus really helping blitz through the deck. The deck looking quite thin at this point, which is the whole idea of that Kyogre build, to try and get right down to the bottom.
Yeah, just try and make your deck get to just energy as fast as possible, so Kyogre can basically do as high as 250 damage to 2 bench Pokemon, 500 total damage from a 1 prize basic Pokemon. It's insane. We just see a Mirage Gate!
Oh, there's the Mirage Gate, but 2 water as well.
Oh.
And the Kyogre and an Escape Rope.
Wow.
All very good cards there in that Colrus experiment. So it's going to be a tough old decision for Piotr. He's just going to count his deck out as well, see what else is in there. Probably thinking, why am I this unlucky? But, you know, my Pokestop was nice last turn.
Yeah.
Just got to try and work out what the best choices are here. So I believe that was a water and maybe the Kyogre as well.
The Kyogre, yeah. I wonder if we're going to see the Echoing Horn double Waltz play. That would be absolutely downright disgusting, in my opinion.
Energy Recycler here, so that's going to put the energy back in for that Mirage Gate. And then we're going to also see an Echoing Horn in hand already. So those energy going to be going back in with Energy Recycler to give targets for the Mirage Gate, and Greninja can get powered up again.
Yeah, Moonlight Shuriken, honestly, is a crazy attack when you think about it. Remember, think of Rapid Strike Urshifu, you know, with that rapid flow. 120 damage to 2 Pokemon, right? That was, you know, game-defining, meta-defining, right?
Oh, interesting. Ooh, power up the Zamazenta. Oh,
okay, you can still attach one from hand, right? So,
yes.
Yeah. But yeah, and Greninja is a basic. It does 90, which in most circumstances is, you know, just as good on a basic Pokemon that draws you cards as well.
Greninja has been the MVP Radiant Pokemon across the board. And there it is, the Echoing Horn. As we said, there was a free bench spot. Doesn't matter which routes it is, just one of them. Any of the routes.
Any of the routes. 90 HP can carry Memory Skip and or Teleportation Burst. And wow, Greninja's taking what? This will be Greninja's 3rd prize card, right? I believe. Bang, no, 4th prize card. Sorry, 4 prize cards from a Greninja.
2 turns, 4 prize cards. That's exactly why at the beginning of the game we said that Greninja needed to come out the prizes. Yeah. It was so key in this matchup, and Piotr doing so again.
Wow. Now, Piotr's done an amazing job at keeping those rolls out of play. Now, if you're taught, oh wait, we're going to see another Pokestop. Well, that's not an item. That is an item.
Not a good one, though.
Oh, goodness. And there's the duality of Pokestop. It can buy. I guess, actually, get energy in the discard pile. Quite advantageous for a Gardevoir deck now I think about it. But I don't think there's... Is there a Volts in deck? Oh, there is. Oh, that's a Curly, I should say. I don't think there's any Volts left.
No, I don't know if you want to put any more Rolts down after that. I mean, there is no Echoing Horn now, so 1 Rolts is safe from a 2 prize turn. But, you know, it's still possible here. Tord has some big Pokemon that won't be knockout possible in 1 turn.
Yep.
If we can get rid of that Zacian on the bench, Gardevoir EX will take 2 hits. And then that's where you can also start thinking about recovering the health by Collapse Stadium, which we lost Collapse Stadium earlier.
They got discarded, I think.
So no Collapse Stadium, but the Gardevoir EX can take a few hits, just trying to make it more difficult. But 4 prizes needs to be taken here. And there's not a single 2 prize Pokemon in Piotr's deck.
Exactly. So they're going to be 4 prize cards taken the old-fashioned way. That will most likely leave multi-prize Pokemon, because I think Cresselia's 2nd attack only does 110, I believe. So that's not going to KO a Greninja. Oh, the Mew's coming down. So you really have to deal with this Greninja now if you're putting down that Mew. So yeah, if you can't KO the Greninja with Cresselia, it's going to have to most likely be Zacian and or Gardevoir.
Yeah, it has to put that Mew down in order to have enough targets for the Psychic Embrace to get enough damage in play. To send over with the Moonglow reverse. So 2 on the Mew, 2 on the Gardevoir. Doesn't need to put anything on the Zacian because it's still recovering from that early Cramorant hit. And so Moonglow reverse here will target something down. But again, 4 prizes still remaining for Tord, and just the 2 on the other side for Piotr. No Kyogre. Greninja's probably going to be less effective now with the kind of targets about. We'll start thinking about how to use that Zamazenta.
Wow, so yeah, that Cresselia has been used expertly well. Looking at Piotr's list, doesn't actually play Boss's orders, so won't be able to sort of pick the target of that retaliation of the Zamazenta. So Tord still leaving that Cresselia in the active, saying that's all you're hitting if you are going to hit the active. Looks like Piotr might be trying to line up a Sableye at this moment in time. Letting you spread 12 damage counters, I should say, with Lost Mind's never a bad option.
Yeah, I think that's the key here. Kyogre builds often don't play bosses.
Yeah.
Just because at the end game, they don't need to boss anything up. They're just Kyogreing 2 targets. With Sableye, the sprinkles about. So no bosses orders here. No way to gust up that Zacian. So smart from Tord to recognize he can just retreat it, leave it on the bench, and it's pretty safe now.
Yeah.
So there is a route to victory. You know, it's the last prizes here will be hard for Piotr to get.
You're 100% correct. They're not going to be easy at all, especially with no bosses ordered. Going to have to try and make use of Sableye as much as possible. Does play 2 copies and does have a Clara, I believe, in hand off that Colress. We see an escape rope. You know, this could be interesting. I think Tord doesn't want any of these Pokemon to take a hit, so goes into the Mew. That makes sense. You can at least hopefully get a use of Mysterious Tail, but I would imagine this Mew could be getting sent to the discard pile, leaving 6 more damage counters for Piotr to place.
Okay, so knocking out that Mew, leaving 1 prize remaining, and is going to put 3 on the Cresselia and the other 3 on the Greninja. Making sure there is 1 left on the Greninja in the case of the Moonglow Reverse, I believe.
Yeah.
Because they can take 2 damage off. And so Moonglow Reverse, a great healing approach against Sableye to start taking away that widespread damage. But clever players will play around that, especially things like Switch Cart as well. It's not in the list here for Tord. You don't play Switch Cart in the Gardevoir. You don't play any Switch Outs. But that's where the skill of Sableye comes in, having to think about the ways that things can be healed or removed from play.
And that's why, Mike, if I'm honest, this is why I don't play Lost Box. I get to think way too much. All these little 10s, 30s, 20s matter so much. And they just hit Pokestop, get rid of 2 energy and the Gardevoir. I just played the Fog Crystal there. And yeah, and this is why, you know, top tier players like Piotr can navigate these hard decks. As Jesper playing it as well yesterday, to real good finishes, because they just know how to navigate all these micro decisions and damage here, damage there, and it all comes back around.
I mean, they're highly powerful. If you know how to play them, every decision done well is amazing. And you can see there that recovery. You can see the energy onto the Greninja. So a Sableye can knock out that Greninja now. So he's just going to knock out a Sableye and hope that another Sableye can't be put into play.
Clara is in hand though. Yeah, Sableye lost mine.
Scoop-a-doop.
Wow, so game 1 going to Piotr there, stealing game 1 there from Tord. A fantastic game, I feel. Piotr navigated that so well. Tord didn't have the greatest of starts, but it's still down to your opponent to really slam the door shut, and he did exactly that.
That Manaphy prized was so key.
Yeah.
First turn, Greninja gets the knockout, Manaphy still in the prizes. Next turn, gets the knockout, Manaphy in hand, but not able to play it down in time to stop that second Greninja. Greninja getting 4 prizes across 2 turns, really swinging it back in favour, and the Echoing Horn came in clutch as well.
Yeah, when he took it off the Pokestop, and I was like, wait a minute, this Greninja's still alive. We could see a bit of shenanigans here. Echoing Horn is such a strong card. We had a debate with it, they didn't really, about in Mew VMAX, funnily enough. We think it's a strong card when it works. If you can Echoing Horn a Pokemon back, immediately KO it via boss's orders and or bench type, it is insanely strong. Sometimes it can be hard to pull off that combo or in a turn. When you do, it can be game defining.
I mean, Echoing Horn, even if it's not in your list, is something people have to think about.
Yeah.
So having an Echoing Horn in the meta is key to make people think about lots of different outcomes, and that's why we often see stuff like Miriam used in Gardevoir to take basics out of the discard. But Piotr here, a very successful player, a regular day 2 player, making some top 8s as well, and recent success for the Polish region has been so good. I think Warsaw really inspired them all to get that bit better. Having a home regional was key for them, as they've been cooking. They've been cooking in Poland, and they're now looking to travel around Europe.
And I've actually managed to play Piotr once in Leipzig regionals at 20. Oh my goodness, was that a Ralts, a Zacian, a Cresselia, and Lumineon, all in the prize cards with no heavy ball? Oh my goodness, and we know...
Here we go. Tord is up a gear.
Here comes Turbo Tord, baby. Let's go. Needs to accelerate his way, because he's been 2, realistically.
I want to see his reaction if he checks his prizes and sees the Cresselia's not there. And that's going to be a key attacker in this matchup. And there is a routes in there that will be potentially relevant, but not too bad. No mana fee this time at least, so we'll be able to get the mana fee out at some point.
Oh, there's a quick little, I think we all clocked that little expression there, talking. And we've seen how important Cresselia really is, right? We see it used so often. Guardian Mirror, it was being used. Against Lost Box, it's being used. So I'll be really intrigued to see how the game plan changes when Cresselia is in the prize cards.
Yeah, and there we go. Psychic and then Roar of the Sword. Similar start to last time. No mana fee in play. Doesn't need to worry about that because Mirage Gate unlikely to be active in this first turn. But Turbo Tord starts off this game with a pretty solid first turn.
We take that as one more Volts than last game. I mean,
still and a Greninja.
And a Greninja. Still
take that Cramorant hit.
Yeah, exactly, actually. Still no Battle VIP pass. I think it's 40% chance of having one in your opening hand if you play 4. Over to Piotr, does have a Chorus Experiment start the turn. Just going to consult the hand. Does have a VIP Battle Pass in his opening hand as well, which is fantastic. Was that Pokegear, Nestball? Oh, there's a Battle VIP Pass in the Chorus. We might see the rare. There it is. Yeah, the rare turn 1 Battle Pass getting pitched. My hand's just that good. Yeah,
Tord giving it an acknowledgement. Nestball and VIP Pass being taken to the Lost Zone from that Chorus. So that is a bad sign for Tord right now. He knows the rest of that hand is looking good.
Yeah.
And without any flower selectings used yet as well. And we'll see Piotr's technique for prize checking, the basics at the front, energies at the back. Much easier to see everything that way.
Yeah, no, and that's one thing I think these top tier players will be doing is price checking, whether it is this style or moving them around or just taking mental notes. I believe how Tord was doing it is so important, making sure you don't make plays expecting certain resources to be there or vice versa.
Yeah, so 2 Metal Energy, able to note them down there on the notepad. We'll note all 3 of those energy that are in the prizes, and also the Zamazenta is missing. So the other 2 prizes might be able to work those out, and the Energy Recycler, I guess, could be relevant, but there are 3 of those in the deck, so a high count of them for the Kyogre for this very reason, in case one of them gets prized.
Yeah, exactly that. Especially, like you said, playing the recyclers there, another 2 available. And yeah, if you're Tord, you're thinking, my goodness, my opponent has just lost on the Nest Ball and the VIP pass on their first turn. What ungodly hand have they got to where that's the best option? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's. I think Tord is just saying, you know, we've got a game to finish here.
Yeah, don't worry
about over shuffling. It's all good. I'm confident that your shuffling technique is class. These guys know each other very well.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of talk right now about shuffling because it is such a big part of the game. And it's one of those things that it takes time to learn. So for the newer players who've been playing a lot of online, when they go in person, it's one of the first skills they have to really start nailing. And especially the newer players, they have to think when they shuffle. Whereas, whereas for the players with a bit more experience, shuffling is a chance to think, so they can start doing their next turns.
Yeah, that's it. I definitely do a lot of my thinking time on shuffling. All right, what do I do now then? What do I do now then? I actually managed to play Piotr once at Leipzig Regionals all the way back in the day. I was playing Wishy Washy Wars. I think he was playing Golly Garb, as it were. Nice enough fellow. Did manage to get the W there. It was a horrible match.
You beat him?
I did beat him.
Well, I guessed you beat him because you wouldn't have brought it up if you hadn't.
Oh, no.
I know that trick. Why do you keep bringing up Kai Wainwright whenever I beat him, you know?
But he was a nice enough fellow back then. I remember we was talking after the round about how the scene was in Poland, about how he had his little testing group, Pyrorugs, I believe it was. It's nice enough fellow, so nice to see him here at the highest of stage many years later, still playing the game. And like you said, you know, having that Warsaw Regionals, their first regionals in that country, must be very nice.
You say the highest of stages. This is the final round of Swiss today at Malmo.
Yeah.
These players playing for winning in. If either of these players win this game, they're likely going to be in that top 8. And if there's a draw, I think they might not. So they want to make sure there's a result here, which is why we're seeing Tord playing at this speed.
Wow.
Really wants to make sure that the game finishes. Being 1-0 up right now for Piotr, he's in a very good position.
Yeah, 1-0 up in a deck that doesn't play multi-prize Pokemon, so, you know, there's going to be no crazy power spike turns, well, ridiculous ones anyway, no, like, you know, 2, 3, 4 prize card turns even. Tord manages to develop a refinement. Curlier, get another Volts down, Storm Sword, I think it's Storm Slash, ready to go with the Zacian V, Ultra Ball, getting the Mana Feed, I think, right. That Greninja ain't going amok again this game, buddy, not today.
Yeah, that was so key last game. The prizing of the Mana Feed, I think of all the things you could prize, that would be the #1 on the list you wouldn't want to prize from last game. So now Tord able to set up as expected. That Zacian is a big tanky knockout potential and can be healed through a penny.
Yep.
So very solid there. Zamazenta in the prizes for Piotr. Can get a one-hit knockout on the Zacian, but as we said, it's in the prizes, so that's not going to be possible. So an interesting game here. How's it going to play out?
Yeah, you're right. This Zacian has free reign, at least in this moment in time, as long as the Zamazenta stays where it is, to just, you know, keep swinging. If it takes a hit via a Cramorant or anything like this, you can just penny it, like you said. And it's interesting, include the Zamazenta. I feel as if when Crown Zenith came out, it wasn't the most impactful set of face value. You had Sky Sealstone and the Zamazenta being really the most meta impacting
and the Bidoof.
cards. And the Bidoof, to be fair. Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you the Bidoof for the Carefree Constance, I think the ability name is. They love giving Bidoof and Bibarel funny ability names. But yeah, Lost Box sort of included Zamazentas, and then it sort of seems to have been phased out almost, but it's still a very good attacker, right? A basic Pokemon, 160 HP, being able to hit for 220 is not a bad number.
I'm sure it's good in GLC as well, which we'll be getting to see between the Swiss and top 8 in a bit. But yes, the Zamazenta, in terms of the numbers that are written on the card, it looks like it should be good.
Yeah.
Just not quite the right decks for it right now, and better options for Lost Box across the board. But Piotr backs it. Probably had a good amount of value from it. It'll be interesting to hear from him what he thinks about it as a whole. But yeah, quite a limited set of attackers here in the list. You know, just the typical Cramorant, Sableye, and the sort of accessory attackers of Zamazenta and Kyogre, where not as versatile, not as focused around weakness as other decks are, just purely focused around big, powerful attackers.
Yeah, which is never a bad thing, right? I'm just gonna hit hard regardless of what type you are, what type I am. I'm just gonna hit you hard. And it's interesting. I wonder if Gardevoir EX was weak to metal, like some of the other fairy types, if Zamazenta would see more play. But unfortunately, it's
probably
not.
Yeah.
But here we do see Cramorant coming in with that Spit Innocently, with it Lost Provisions ability, allowing it to attack for free, since Piotr does have 8 in the Lost Zone on that march to 10, so Lost Mine can be used.
So we're going to see the motoring through the deck now for Tord, looking to try and find that penny most likely, and maybe even looking to evolve one of these Curlies up into a Gardevoir EX and attack with that, as that is also another big tanky attacker. So we see Curlier down, ready to attack. There is a Luminion in hand as well, which is key, and a Forest Sealstone, so can find that penny here guaranteed to set up a Gardevoir EX.
Yeah, and there we do see the Star Alchemy. Looks like going for the Judge.
Oh, interesting.
Another defense against Lost Zone.
Well, of course, can retreat. The Zacian doesn't need to penny it because there's no Gust, so he can just leave that on the bench.
Fantastic point. Yeah.
He is smart, isn't he? This
guy. He's not bad, is he? He knows what he knows his way around Pokemon cards. I guess one thing about using the penny is at least it would heal. It would heal. Now that Piotr's at 8 cards in the Lost Zone, it pushes it out of range of a Sableye. But Judge Roxanne can be devastating for Lost Box decks to deal with. Let's see how the 4 cards treat Piotr. We do see a Pokegear, so maybe he can get out of jail free. I do see Mirage get actually. I feel as if the Judge was quite good there for him, to be honest. Let's see what Tord has to work with. Fog Crystal. Probably going to take either a Ralts or a Basic Energy, I would imagine. Or Cresselia. Oh, no, that's in the prize. It can't be that. So it's going to have to be a Ralts.
Yeah, that memory skip Ralts. I think becoming less usable. It's an out against Alolan Vulpix.
Yes.
You always got to respect that. And I think Alolan Vulpix will be waiting and poised for when Guardy lists think, do you know what, I don't think I'm going to play the memory skip Ralts anymore. Another one of those cards we mentioned about Mew VMAX being more effective when it's less respected.
Yes.
Same thing for that Alolan Vulpix.
Yeah, that Alolan Vulpix. Tord is all too familiar with having to play against an EUIC final via the hands of Alex Szymanski. And funnily enough, out of all everyone was looking for Gardevoir answers to Vulpix on the back of that, right? I think Mimikyu EX of all things was decided to be the best, but no one's playing it. It just turns out memory skip might just be as good as possible. Here we do see the Gardevoir EX getting ready to attack. There's 190 damage of its attack Miracle Force, which also heals all special conditions, but not super relevant right now.
Yeah, special conditions not so good in the current meta. Bit of paralysis here and there might pop up with that Articuno.
Yep.
But yeah, ultimately special conditions. I guess there's the Drapion V-Star as well.
True, yeah, that paralyzes and poisons, but obviously you can't use an attack to recover from paralysis because you can't attack. So it would heal the poison though, or burn. Never really see burn though.
No, if they ever feature, it's normally as a secondary effect, and sometimes it can be a negative effect on oneself. You know, sleep on the thumping Snorlax. That's on itself. But anyway, we don't see those special conditions all too often. But a nice little secondary text there for Gardevoir.
And yeah, it looks like Piotr starts to turn off with some flower selects. I believe did find a chorus experiment off the flower selecting, which means Sableye is now live off those flower selectings as well. We see a Mirage Gate, Pokestop, Pokegear, and a Nest Ball. So the judge, I'd have to argue for Tor, might not have been as effective as he would have liked.
Yeah, he would have hoped for a little bit more disruption there. Doesn't need the Pokestop and the Nest Ball this time. Has the Sableye already, got the Psychic Energy in hand already. Just needs to switch out here. So, I mean, Mirage Gate can be used to get some energy in play as a switch out. So plenty of ways for Piotr to start getting that Sableye damage. And we'll probably look to get the Zacian. As you mentioned, the Zacian right now is in range with that 110 hit points. Might also look to try and get the memory skip routes while it's on 60 hit points, because that can start setting up favorable knockouts too. So we'll see where that goes.
Interesting targets of the Mirage Gate there, just trying to have, I guess, energies in play to provide, you know, retreat pivots for a couple turns, as it were. And yeah, like you said, the Sableye, 12 damage counters is honestly insane for a basic Pokemon to spread, and it just can just really pick apart these evolution decks, right? Gardevoir being a stage 2 deck, so plenty of low HP basics. One of the disadvantages of using memory skip rocks, it has 60 HP, which is 10 less, which can make all the difference when you're facing off against a Sableye.
Yeah, maybe the Manaphy might be a target so that the Greninja can attack in the future. Because there's plenty of energy available and a few more Mirage Gates for that. So we'll see if that becomes an option. There is no Miriam now. That got discarded. So recovery of the Manaphy not possible. And we'll see what happens in a bit here. The Gardevoir EX in the active spot. Not a worry for Sableye. It will attack around. And you can see here Piotr having to think a little bit about this. We'll be taking out the Curlier, so Manaphy still in play. And a little bit of damage onto that Zacian. Where's the rest of this damage going to be going?
It looks like it's pointing towards memory skip rolls. I don't know how much is left. I don't think it's much.
It was 80 on the Curlier, 1 on the Zacian, so that will leave 3 to go down. Go on to the active Gardevoir EX. So 90 damage on a 310 hit point Pokemon. We'll put it down to 220 to knock out. So that Zamazenta, which is still in the prizes, could be a relevant attacker.
Yeah, and you can see the meticulous maths there, as it were. Here we see a level ball come down. I imagine it's going to be for a Kurt. Oh, no, it's for the Mew by looks of it. Rare Candy into the Shining Arcana Gardevoir. And you look at, can attach them if you like, which is actually really good. Lets you get energy in play without having to get damage in play. So you're thinking, okay, fair enough, double
energy.
Yeah, it's not bad. That reminds me a bit of Intrepid Sword back in the day with Zacian V. Sometimes you got the two.
Don't remind me. Don't remind me. We can see that Penny now looking to heal some damage off that Zacian. So again, it's just all about those little bits of efficiency. The Penny coming out a bit later on means that we'll see the Zacian potentially be able to come down, and then the Collapse Stadium to maybe get rid of the Luminion. Be interested to see what kind of order of operation Tord goes for here, but powering up a Shiny Arcana Gardevoir with full HP is also going to be effective.
Yeah.
As we see, that's going to be the option here to attack. Keeping that Gardevoir EX safe on the bench. Yeah,
because I think that Brainwave Gardevoir has 140 HP, so that's a big number. You know, outside of range of a Sableye at all times, outside of range of a Cramorant at all times, not outside of the Zamazenta, but you don't really want to be using Zamazenta to take one prize, and plus it's currently in the prize cards anyway, so this Shining Arcana might be able to get some good value.
Exactly, so we see that concealed cards from Greninja has been so good with a 12 energy count, so many targets to get through, and then the many energy recycling. You're not too worried about energy in the discard pile. So Kyogre and a water energy off of that flower selecting. So debating now whether the Kyogre is going to be an option with 220 hit points left on that Gardevoir EX and the Luminion as well on the bench. 4 prizes are available, but 5 still need to be taken. So this turn we'll be looking to try and find one more knockout before going for that. Does keep the Kyogre. Yeah,
it does keep it. So definitely that is in Piotr's game plan here to try and go for the Kyogre. And like you said, now that Miriam's gone for Tord, I don't think there's any other way for him to recover Pokemon. So once Manaphy's gone, Manaphy is gone. The other counterplay Tord could do is, like you said, use some Collapse Stadium. But right now there's currently 2 Pokemon in play that is in reach. Well, I mean, there's the Gardevoir, which is in reach, and the Luminion. So you can't Collapse Stadium both. So Kyogre with the Aqua Storm attack could be very live.
So Clara now being used to get that Sableye and Psychic Energy, and then it's just whether anything else wants to be taken with it. A Metal Energy, leaving 3 Water and 2 Metal in the discard. No other Pokemon taken, leaving the Comfey and the Cramorant in the discard pile. Sableye down. Any switch outs? Yes, there's the escape rope. So the escape rope with the energy attachment to that Sableye will allow the Manaphy to be targeted down. And this is where next turn, that potential of a Kyogre play could be huge. And this is where something like a Roxanne could come in massive.
You are 100% correct. Yeah, Roxanne could be very advantageous. I think it's in the loss zone for Piotr, and it will be going down to, what, 4 prize cards this turn? So it might not be low for
the other side for Tord. Roxanne for Tord would be huge right now. Well, he won't even be in range of Roxanne,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's going down to 4. Left. Yeah, sorry, that's what.
My goodness.
Yeah, going down to 4. So, and that's a scary thing about Kroger. You can sort of play around those sort of Roxanne and just say, oh, well, I'll just hit 4 prizes for now, and then we just take all 4 of those in one go, right?
So the judge would be the way of disruption with a Power Pad?
Oh, with Power Pad, yes, you are correct, yeah. And yeah, oh goodness, this is looking dicey. One thing I would say is that Aqua Storm can only hit benched Pokemon. So while that card of EX is in the active, it's actually kind of safe from Kyogre. So you might have to see in combination with Escape Rope, but then Escape Rope puts the Lumineon in the active. So not quite out of the woods yet. We could maybe see Echoing Horn into that Zacian. Oh no, Zacian's in hand, sorry, off the Penny. So.
Oh, very, very clever plays here. And I think Tord putting stuff on the bench and in the active based off of what's needed is that higher level game plan for him. He's actually going to put both Zacian down, so that does open up the potential for a full-powered Kyogre next turn.
Wow, was not expecting to see double Zacian. I'm trying to...
Maybe we'll be using that collapsed stadium now to get the Luminion off the bench.
Yeah, that makes sense, because then at least you force the Aqua Storm to be a full 5 instead of being a 4, right? Because then these Asians have 220, so you get rid of Luminion and really make Piotr work to get the maximum effective Aqua Storm. I think that's what the lines were going for there. Makes perfect sense in hindsight. Does have the collapsed stadium in hand, actually, by the looks of it.
Yep, now be the collapsed stadium there. Luminion going to be discarded. Hoying it over to Piotr on the other side of the table. You can see both these players like to organise their discard piles to help them understand where their energy is. Both decks very important to know what energy is in the discard pile. But when you do hand it over to your opponent, it does get turned into a little pile, as we can see now. The Pal Pad, interesting to see what will be coming back in. So Penny and a Judge.
That makes sense. I guess what benching both the Zacians does as well, so you can use Collapse Stadium, is that it turns off Echoing Horn as well. So you've got these maximum HP Pokemon that you can and really make the Aqua Storm be as efficient as possible. Big turn here for Piotr. In theory, can win this next turn if you get a max-powered Kyogre, but as we've seen before, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. There's a lot of energy in the discard pile. There's one energy recycler prize. So that means we are going to have to see some churning through the deck to make it happen.
Yeah, and this is the scary thing with Kyogre. You're always having to think about their end game potential. What can they do in the final few turns? And it's also really tough for the Kyogre player to think through that and do the maths perfectly, know that there'll be only 5 energy in the deck and nothing else. They have to motor down right to the bottom of their deck, otherwise it doesn't really work. And knowing that there's potential for a Judge next turn from Tord, this is going to have to be the turn for Piotr, otherwise it all might get disrupted.
You're right, there's too many trainers in Piotr's hand to try and burn them all to make sure on the back of a Judge you'll be safe. That's definitely not going to be the case. You could try and fill your deck of energy now, but you could get Judge into all the energy in hand, in which case they're useless. So yeah, I think this is going to be the turn. If you want to see Kyogre, this is the turn for it. And like we said, it does have to be a max-powered 1. Like 3 cards left in deck. Here's the flower selecting then. Heavy Ball switch cart.
Nice, easy decision there.
Yeah, Heavy Ball, I mean, it's not even a target of Heavy Ball right now. So what is that? I wonder what that last card is. Do you have a way of looking? Kyogre looks like getting moved to the front. Clara gets back 2 energies from the discard pile and 2 basic Pokemon.
You see the energy recycler there as well. Is getting... So the energy recycler, both of them in hand, the other one in the prizes. So has 2 energy recycler, the Kyogre. I think there's a few Mirage Gate too. So we'll be getting that Sableye down. So he's actually going to be opting to Sableye this turn, I believe.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's enough energy about for that Kyogre play to have come off for the 250 damage. There's 5. There was 7 in the discard pile there, and you need 8, right?
Yeah, because you need to actually attack with the Kyogre as well, and there's 1 Sock energy attached as well. So I think you might be right. I don't know if there's enough energy for the Kyogre. What's his last card, actually?
It's because of those 2 in the prizes as well, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's the worst place for energy to be for a Kyogre player in the prize, because you can't manipulate that anywhere. That's going to stay where it is, especially in your last 4, because they're the ones that Kyogre takes.
So if there's 12 energy in the deck, 2 in the prizes, that means there's 10 energy left and needs 8. So maybe some went into the lost zone in earlier decisions, which has led that to not be a possibility. So we'll need to Sableye Sprinkle, which will probably put some on the Zacians just to try and get some damage in play, but then that's where Penny could come in. I guess 20 on both the Zacians, or just going straight on either like that. That will put them down to 160 hit points. So we'll still need 4 energy off of the Kyogre, which is possible with the 7 energy left in play.
Yeah, could be more manageable, right? Especially if this... Ooh. Oh, no, still not... Roxanne's still not live, actually. So, tough decision. Or was it Roxanne and...
Energy, right?
Energy. Both important, actually, I would say. Looks like Energy...
And the thing is the healing as well here.
As well. Yeah.
So if it puts the Gardevoir EX into the active spot for the knockout and leaves one Zacian on the bench, it picks up the other one with Penny, that could be the case. And then Luminion as well with the Echoing Horn, something to have to think about. Is the Echoing Horn still available for Piotr? I don't think so. I'm not sure.
I think it's in hand, to be fair. And now that Collapse Stadium's gone, Echoing Horn will be live, I believe, actually. I don't think... Todd hasn't played support yet, so we could see Miriam to shuffle in all the Pokemon.
I think Miriam didn't get brought back with the Power Pad, so Miriam is still in the discard pile. So looking to go for that Cresselia this turn, and that will heal some of the damage off of those Zacian. Will put them out of range of nothing, really, like the 188 each still. So it still will be the same case, but it might help the Gardevoir EX. I think it's just a better attackers having the active spot.
And going after the Comfey again, leaving the Sableye inactive. A big turn here for Piotr, because Tord is only 1 attack away from winning, has plenty of attacking options, as it were. So can we see Piotr navigate? It currently has no cards left in deck, so wait, does it wait? Does he have cards in? Oh, no, he does. I apologise. They are the last cards.
So he can now do the Kyogre play. So Kyogre's going to go down. Energy Recycler. So retreat into the Kyogre, Energy Recycler, the first 5 energy in, Mirage Gate some of those, and then I believe there'll be 4 afterwards that will be able to be used for that double knockout on the Zacian. So just using that Sableye last turn to be able to guarantee the knockout on those. Otherwise, it would not have been within range just due to an early lost zoned energy. So there we go.
Yes, I think you're right. Yes, that's going to be all energy full of deck. Aqua Storm, 1, 2, 3, 4 on double Zacian. And what a finish for Piotr. Getting his spot in top 8 with Kroger in amazing fashion against the one and only Tord Redcliffe. What a game that was.
Piotr just navigating that end game beautifully. Kyogre coming through, recognizing there wasn't quite enough energy. 7 energy is not enough to get a double knockout on the Zacian, but it was enough when the Sableye came in and chipped across the 2 of them. Beautifully played by Piotr. You saw there Tord really trying to zoom through that final game to try and make a game 3 possible, but Piotr patiently knew his deck is good in that matchup, and Gardevoir falling to Lost Box.
Yeah, and I guess traditionally, like we said, Gardevoir is meant to be unfavored into Lost Zone Box. We have seen on stream the Gardevoir players have been saying, no, 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 I'm perfectly fine. But eventually, Lost Box takes a Gardevoir victim, and full credit to Piotr playing that perfectly. Didn't get too aggressive. Thinks, let me just, I mean, I could risk a Kyogre and maybe try and finish it off with Sableye later, but let me do it the other way around. Let me just guarantee this, take my time. And I think one of the advantages of playing a full single prize deck is that you do traditionally have time.
I wonder how that Zamazenta has played out in other games, because it wasn't relevant in that matchup, never came into play. If they're going to Mirage Gate, it would likely be on either the Kyogre or the Greninja, as we saw in both games. That spread, taking out 2 Pokemon at the same time, is where Lost Box can get ahead over Gardevoir. But other matchups, Zamazenta, 220 damage as a revenge knockout, can do wonders. So beautifully designed deck here by Piotr, very efficient, very streamlined, and a lack of boss in there could bite them, but other than that, really like the deck.
Yeah, I had a little thought about the Zamazenta, right? I said one thing you can do to defend yourself against Kyogre is put the Pokemon that you don't want to be carried in the active, right? Kyogre can't hit can't hit the active. So I think if your opponent puts their one big Pokemon in the active, you can say, oh, let me just Zamazenta that instead then and slap it for 220. So maybe that's the reasoning. Maybe we'll find out more in the winners interview as to why that Zamazenta is there and how it's been effective. But massive shout out to him. And the Kyogre players doing really well on stream.
Oh yeah, Kyogre, a very underrated card because of how much work it takes to use. And in some matchups, you never end up using it because you don't need to go that far into the game. But as you can see there, a huge swing, a 4-prize swing. And I think in particular with Roxanne being such an effective disruption tool, taking 4 prizes at once, never going below that 3 threshold for Roxanne is a very smart decision there. Yeah,
and the difference between getting hit with a Roxanne versus a Judge is, 2 cards. It sounds like not a lot, but when you have Comp Phase to start drawing you out of it and Greninjas, you can turn those 4 cards back up into 6, 7, 8, and all of a sudden you're back to where you was again with those accordion hands, as Rabbi would say, and then you can navigate down to that Aquastorm turn, putting 400 damage into play with a basic 1-prize Pokemon. Honestly, when you put it like that, it sounds a bit nuts.
It does. I mean, we have various different Lost Box builds here at Malmo and across all of Pokemon right now. Sablezard has been very popular. We've seen a lot of it on stream, but the Greninja builds are the ones which vary so much, and we see some with that turbo build looking to really use V Pokemon and normally having a Forest Seal Stone in there, sometimes a Sky Seal Stone in there too. And those builds are looking to power up bigger attackers. But there's a few variations of those single prize ones, and I think what we just saw there might be the best single prize Greninja build of Lost Box.
Yeah, it's interesting because now you start to see the hybrid of Turbo plus Kyogre. Good friend of mine, Alberto Conti, sort of popularised them. We saw it on stream yesterday. Jesper playing that exact deck actually. But yeah, if you're going for a full singleton Lost Box, like you said, you've got Sablezard very popular this weekend actually. And then yeah, you've got this sort of Kyogre, normal Cramorant, Sableye, maybe a Zamazenta 1 and 2 here as well. And I think you're right, if you're playing a purely singleton version, I think Kyogre is the way to go. The main problem with it though is that it's hard to play.
Yeah, you pointed at your own brain there.
Yes, but hard for this brain. Maybe not. might not be hard for your brains at home watching. I say, but little old me, oh my goodness. If that was me sitting there to the Piotr, I don't think I would have been winning, put it that way.
I mean, it's so hard to navigate as well. You've got all the decisions throughout, but then even that final double energy recycler, Mirage Gates, Kyogre setup, and if you have any tough decisions along the way with a Colress, we saw that really tough Colress with 2 water, Kyogre, a switch out and something else, and they just went, right, we're not Kyogre in this game, so we're gonna remove that. So it can get quite tough, but Piotr from Poland coming through, smashing it there, and we'll see how that puts the rest of round 14. So that was the final round of Swiss we just saw there. Piotr will be going through to top 8, I'm pretty sure. We'll see who else is going to be joining him in top 8. But this has been a very unusual regional. I didn't expect to see these kind of decks doing well.
I didn't expect to see Sables up in here, there, and everywhere, to be honest. It seems to be everywhere on the top tables. But I think if you're Piotr now, right, I'd argue you're playing the hardest deck in format, at least to navigate, right? And you've just beaten, in most people's opinions, one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world, to get into top 8. Your confidence level must be sky high, right? Like, not only am I playing the hardest deck, I've just beat arguably the best player in the world, and now I'm here in top 8. This must be my event, right? Surely.
Yeah, I mean, Piotr's going to be on cloud 9 right now. He's going to be thinking, top 8, I'm coming for you. I just beat Tord. And I want to find out from him how he's feeling, as Ben is going to be chatting with Piotr now.
Hello trainers and welcome back. And as we just said there, we're back in the interview stage with Piotr for the winners interview. Piotr, you're into top 8 here at the Malmo Regionals. How are you feeling?
Well, I'm actually not sure if I don't bubble out. I didn't count this or check exactly, but I hope I have top 8.
Well, let's hope then.
And feeling pretty good.
Yeah. Well, you've just beaten what I would call the final boss. You've beaten Tord Reklev, and with such a complex deck as well. And we've seen here that Gardevoir actually has a pretty good matchup against Lost Box, but you've seemed to flip that tide back on itself.
Yeah, well, I think the matchup is definitely positive for Lost Box, but I lost before at the tournament against another great Gardevoir player, Brian De Vries, but I faced a lot of Gardevoirs this weekend, and all the other I beat, so it was, but yeah, a lot of things can happen there with Penny, with Collapse Stadium, Roxanne's, and yeah, it can be tough if I don't have like really fast start.
Well, it's a bit of deja vu. Of course, we had a winner's interview with you yesterday, and it was with myself, so I just welcomed you back. I said, look at us, we're back here again for a winner's interview. But how has yours, you've got from day 1 to day 2, how has that journey happened? How have you set your story here?
today or in
Yeah,
general?
like how have your matchups gone? You know, have you had a little bit of up? Have you had a little bit of down? Take us through your emotions through day two.
Yeah, so day two I started with a loss against another Polish player, but managed to win all the other matchups. But some of them were very intense. Like the round before this, I had to Kyogre for 5 prizes in the last turn of the game, and it was pretty cool. And yeah, overall I faced some Gardevoirs, some mirror matches, and yeah, faced a lot of good players, and that's it.
No problem. Fingers crossed you do make top 8 now. How are your confidence levels going into top 8 if you were to make it?
Sorry?
How high is your confidence that you can take this home?
Yeah, I hope so. I will just do my best and try to focus and try not to think about other things.
Now, we had a chance to ask you yesterday in your winner's interview how you prep for the tournament, you know, your deck choices, but let's talk about something else. How have you prepped for day 2 specifically? You know, how was last night? Did you test a little bit more around the matchups, around the meta? Did you think a lot more about what you're going to be facing?
No, I was so tired after day 1, so I just made sure to have like 8 hours of sleep because we have hotel pretty near, so I could get enough sleep. And I was obviously checking the standings, what other players are playing, and also check out the whole stream, like every round, which people are playing what and how the live stream matches were going. And I went to sleep and yeah, in the morning listened to some music on the way here and try to relax and focus.
Oh yeah, some top tips. And have you got friends here that you're traveling with, you know, keeping your support strong?
Yeah, I think there were like 10 Poles sitting there and watching my match against Tort, so shout outs to them.
Nice, yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the matchup. Now, we hear time and time again how hard it is to play Kyogre optimally. You know, you have to make all these little micro decisions. You have to map out your strategy to get to that end game scenario. How do you keep your cool? How do you keep your cool towards the game plan?
Well, it's just I have to count the whole game, how many things I have left, and first of all, decide if that's the matchup that I try to set up Kyogre. There are matchups that usually end with Aqua Storm, and there are matchups that usually don't go into this scenario. Gardevoir usually doesn't, but sometimes if I'm not ahead, like in this game, last game against Tort, I have to set up Kyogre. But honestly, during that match, I didn't think that much about this play. I was thinking I can do it the other way, but like 2 turns from the end of the game, I started counting the resources and crossing my fingers I don't get judged because I didn't have any color assist left.
Oh yeah, of course, and it was so amazing to see that you played so well towards the Roxanne. You know, you kept yourself at 4 prizes. You know, you made sure that Tord wasn't able to disrupt you as much as possible.
Yeah, actually, Tort was pretty close to winning that game too, but he couldn't draw into Penny or Judge. But because if he pennies and benches something else, so I cannot Echoing Horn, I wouldn't be able to take 4 prizes. And I also couldn't Kyogre the turn before because I was 1 energy short. 2 of them were in prizes, so I had to use Sableye. But yeah, it was pretty close game.
No, yeah, sure. Well, let's take you out of the tournament that's in front of us right now. You know, you have a great standing here, but what about the rest of your season? You know, how has your journey all the way up till now looked? How has it looked?
Yeah, I top 8 once at Stuttgart, got top 16 in Lille, and basically day 2'd every tournament I attended except for the one in Poland. But yeah, and I'm at 500 points right now, and I am trying to raise that top 22 spots. I'm not going to NAIC, but I hope today and Torino and some League Cups maybe they will be now.
Yeah, so it certainly puts you in the run-in for top 22. As somebody who is in the run-in, you know, you're part of an elite squad of players, you know, consistently performing throughout the season. You know, how do you keep that consistency?
No idea. Like, I just try to focus, bring deck that I like to play, and try to prepare well, know my matchups, and yeah, just focus and.
No, yeah, of course. You say that, you know, you're not going to NAIC, but what about Torino? Are you going to the special event?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. And how are you feeling towards that? You're going to bring the same deck? Are we going to see you again?
I cannot tell anything, but we'll see.
No, I don't want to give too many secrets away.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Piotr. Thank you so much for some of these really helpful insights. Hopefully some of our trainers out there can take some of your top tips. But for now, let's take a short break before we get into our top 8.